Flash warning for photosensitive viewers. The Super Mario movie left me feeling like, for once, I could finally be good at Mario games. So, naturally, it's my job to follow their lead and show you how I do. I'll be playing Bowser's Fury as the backdrop for this episode, but I've experienced plenty of what the Mario series has to offer, if we're getting my bona fides out of the way. My brother and I fought over our shared Game Boy Advance, and half of the time the game in it was Super Mario Advance 2. The other half, it was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, until we got our hands on Pokemon Emerald, of course. I've never really loved the platforming genre, although a couple of my favorite games are smack in the middle of it, ranging from Crash Warped, Spyro Year of the Dragon, and tumbling over to Ape Escape 3. One thing Mario veterans might notice when comparing their beloved game series to others is that the platforming controls have always felt tighter, smoother, more sensitive. For the longest time, I saw that as a detriment. Never liked having to play something where even the teensiest little nudge was recognized by my controller. Blame it on having butterfingers. But as I've grown, I've begun to appreciate that about Mario, always beating others to the punch when it comes to the details. So, what do we know about Bowser's Fury? The basics are that after Odyssey came out as the resurrection of Nintendo's very own savior, everybody had been waiting with bated breath for a follow-up. Then the Switch port of 3D World was announced, and sure, it was cool, but what was cooler to everyone was the add-on packed into it. Bowser's Fury is something like an unofficial, spiritual successor sequel to Odyssey, taking all of the polish and bombast, but giving Mario his normal powers back, sans Cappy. I always thought Odyssey was cool, but even after getting my hands on it, shout out to Nick for my copy of that one, it didn't blow my mind in the way I expected. I think that not only did I already expect that level of polish from Mario's team, but the power switching style left me wanting the kind of Kirby game that has never arrived yet. Forgotten Land doesn't count. Just a passing thought, I don't really think I got the point of amusement parks for the longest time. I get the idea of being on a roller coaster, cool, you're on it, it waves and scares you and all that, but that's it. Where's the takeaway? You have to buy a souvenir to prove you even went on it, and it's not like seeing a movie where those thoughts stick in your head. Put a pin in that. Let's move on. I think there's something that's ultimately pretty darn respectable about the Mario devs putting their foot down with every game and saying, this is what you're getting in this experience. We will not pretend that we can offer you more, and you can put the game down whenever you feel like it. Come back to it when you want. Of course, that's not what they actually say on the box, but that's what it feels like when I play Mario games. These things will carry on whether or not I want them to, or care about them doing so. And that nets two possible outcomes with stuff like this. The Pokemon outcome, which is where the fans end up saying, of course they don't care, they know that they're gonna sell. Or the Mario outcome. Have you ever seen a Mario fan? They're always happy, because their games are always offering the best that they can using the simplest of ideas. Mario games almost always feel fresh and creative while nodding back to their past. Because it's a certainty that Mario games will be made, they're actually better off for it, in a way that games like Pokemon seem to take for granted. Bowser's Fury is no different here. This feels the closest to Super Mario Sunshine in terms of its open environments. Free to roam, the powers are pretty basic, restricted to the classics plus some of 3D World's quirky ones like the cat power, ski shoe, etc. You go around completing puzzles and collecting shines, but of course none of that really means anything in terms of narrative. Shigeru Miyamoto is pretty well known at this point for not being super interested in putting a story behind the things he creates. Heck, that's as evident in the movie as it is in the games. I think dialing in on that feeling helps me understand a bit more of what the point is when I play Mario games. The movie felt like a theme park ride, sliding through all of Mario's greatest hits with a fresh coat of paint over it all. And in a similar but more literal sense, the games feel like roller coasters, much less that I'm on rails, but way more that when I go to a theme park, it's a little tour of everything the place has got to offer. Granted, I dislike theme parks in general, their magic wears off pretty quickly. With Mario games, I tend to play in short bursts before putting the controller down and dialing back into whatever I was doing. I don't like random contrivances in gameplay. but I don't like something that lacks depth, to the point of feeling empty at times. That's the biggest crime Bowser's Fury really commits, and sometimes it feels like when you've played some of it, you've played all of it, but I would maybe offer that it's not the kind of game you have to speed through all of. It's meant to be played in short sessions. See, I don't have a lot to say that you don't already know about Mario. Everybody knows Mario, that's the point. You can sit down, pick up a controller, have a ball. Doesn't matter which game, from when, on what. I think that there's a bit of irony in the sense that I've never really considered myself a Mario fan, capital F. I've always liked the guy, nothing wrong with him, but I've never had a Mario game I went absolutely nuts over, despite owning and playing through several. If I had to put my favorite up there, it would be Superstar Saga, having the best music and art, and taking everything at a slow enough pace for me to enjoy whenever I want. I think it's especially ironic that I don't consider myself a fan, because when I was sat in a packed theater with all of my friends, I felt like I was the only one who was losing it when I heard little Easter egg melodies or full medleys to the series in their orchestral flair. On that thought, I think the biggest selling point when it comes to Mario games for me actually is the music. The specific vibe of smooth jazz within 3D World plus Bowser's Fury combined with the candy-colored aesthetic is what hooked me. In my eyes, the gameplay was just a cool interactive feature to getting my hands on an all-star album. Similarly, with Mario Kart 8, what sold me was the idea of drifting while smooth saxophone licks play out to match flashy arcade visuals. The reason I haven't put a cent into the newer version of Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Inside Story is that despite the fact that it still has Yoko Shimomura on as its lead composer, it doesn't sound the same as those crispy 32-bit songs in the original version. Yes, I have a nostalgia for it, but there's also a point to be made about how even while all following a pretty similar theme, Mario games have enough uniqueness to them that each iteration is worth picking up, both in sound and in play. It's funny, I didn't think I was enjoying Bowser's Fury all that much because my brain wasn't telling me, this is the most insane experience I've ever had, I need another shot of it right now. So I put it down, hopped over to the PS5 to play some Dead Cells, maybe a little Resident Evil 4 remake. But as I felt the DualSense controller in my hand and tried to push through the monotony of what I was doing at that moment, there was an itch. Suddenly, there was a place that the movement, the combat, the function of these games couldn't scratch. I didn't feel like focusing on the hack and slash combat. I wanted to hop, skip, and jump across enemies while bopping my head along to the beat of a jazz track. The best thing about Mario is that after you know what you're doing, you barely have to think, it's intuition. There's just something so satisfying about taking Mario for a spin every now and then. I like depth in games, but I'm never one for all the time attack challenges that tend to be in Mario. I don't love it when games throw needless complexity at me in general, but I like mechanics that I can sink my teeth into based on how interested I am at that moment. What I do love is a game that isn't scared to let its fundamentals shine. Bowser's Fury is simple, and it knows that. Simplicity is the strength.